I abandoned my family because they deserved it. I left my wife and 13-year-old daughter exactly 1 week after finding the affair text. That was 6 months ago. I came home late from a mandatory safety seminar around 11 p.m. Eve was asleep on the couch with her phone face up on her chest. A message popped up. Heart emojis. The exact same ones I send her when I'm working late. Missing you already, with a kissy face. I knew immediately, but I checked anyway. 5 months. Her co-worker, Adam. Married guy with 3 kids. I scrolled through everything. The hotels. The lies about working late. Plans to meet up while I was out of town. I took screenshots of every single message. My hands weren't even shaking. I just felt nothing. I went to bed without waking her. The next morning, Eve was pissed about her neck hurting from the couch. Why didn't you wake me up? I didn't answer. At breakfast, she complained about the grocery prices while my daughter talked about some drama at school. They chatted for 20 minutes. I sat right there eating cereal. Neither of them looked at me once, so I decided to test something. I stopped talking completely. Day 1, nobody noticed. Day 2, my daughter asked me to drive her to soccer practice. I did. She got in, listened to music with her headphones the entire 15-minute drive. Got out. Said thanks without looking up from her phone. Day 3, Eve asked me to take out the trash. I did. She said, finally, and went back to her show. By day 5, I'd spoken maybe 3 sentences total. At dinner, Eve suddenly asked, is something wrong? I made a confused face like I didn't understand the question, then kept eating. She nodded and went back to her food. That was it. Day 6, I called in sick to work. I didn't have a plan. I just sat in my car in the driveway for 2 hours. Then I walked around the neighborhood for a while. Eventually, I came back and sat at the kitchen table, waiting. Eve came home at 5:30 with grocery bags. She immediately started talking about her day while unpacking. Some story about a customer complaint. I sat 6 feet away from her in complete silence. She never looked at me except one glance when she first walked in. My daughter came in 10 minutes later, joined the conversation. Both their backs were to me. They talked about shampoo being on sale for 15 minutes. I was sitting right there, crying. Not loud, but tears were streaming down my face. They never turned around, not once. That's when it hit me. They didn't love me. They never did. I wasn't a husband or a father. I was a paycheck, a driver, someone to take out the trash and fix things. I'd spent 15 years thinking I had a family, but I was just an accessory to their lives. The pain came in waves. I felt like I was drowning. They were still talking about conditioner when I stood up. I had a water glass in front of me. I picked it up and threw it as hard as I could at the tile backsplash above the sink. It exploded. Glass everywhere. They both froze and turned around. Finally, they looked at me. My face was soaked with tears. Eve's mouth dropped open. What the hell? I just stared at her. The silence lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like an hour. Then I spoke. Eve, I know everything about you and Adam. My daughter's head snapped toward her mom. What? Is that true? Eve's eyes went wide. I can explain it's not, but she turned to our daughter. Not to me, to her. They started arguing right there, getting louder. My daughter was crying, asking, how could you do this? Eve was making excuses, trying to calm her down. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes watching them. They were screaming at each other now. Neither of them even glanced at me. It was like the glass, the revelation, my tears, none of it mattered. I was still invisible. So I walked out, got in my car, looked back through the kitchen window. They were still arguing. Didn't even notice I'd left. I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, then I drove off. 15 minutes later, Eve started calling, then texts, dozens from both of them. I turned my phone off. The next morning, I withdrew half our savings, $43,000. Called my boss. He said if I don't come in, I'm fired. I said okay and hung up. Then I drove to Adam's house. His wife answered. I handed her printed screenshots and told her everything. She started crying on the front steps. I left. I checked into a hotel at the edge of town, $50 a night. Eve's brother Bob is a cop. He found me on day 4.